Shakshuka. Good name, isn't it? Shakshuka. What do you think, Mr. Spielberg? Shakshuka.
Is that really the pronunciation? I don't know.
Shakshuka.
Or is it Shakshuka?
Well, Shakshuka.
Yeah.
It's one word, but I kind of like
You kind of making it sound like Shaquille O'Neal. Or Shaka Khan.
Shaka Khan. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Sunday. What a beautiful, beautiful day it is here. We're coming to you live from Martha's Vineyard, one of the most beautiful islands, I think, in the whole world. Myself and the beautiful Mrs. Spielberg.
Hello, everybody.
I just said the most beautiful twice.
So nice. Trying to get some brownie points. Thank you.
I hope everybody had a wonderful week. It's certainly been a week of interest here in the United States.
Today we're having some flowers, Pinot Noir.
I love it. This is possibly one of my favourite house wines. When I say house wine, something what we love to have at home. That to me is just exquisite. Camp Meeting Ridge. You have such good taste, Mrs. Spielberg.
I try.
You really do. Shakshuka, if you think about it, it's a North African dish that actually spread through the Mediterranean, and it's exciting. It's an exciting way to have breakfast, to cook eggs, and if you're having brunch or if you're having friends over, it's a really good dish, and it's a dish that you can make beforehand. You can make the sauce 2 days beforehand. After 2 days, the peppers and the onions and the tomatoes will start to what we call seep. So you can make the sauce, the body of the sauce, 2 days ahead of time. The marinated feta cheese, you can make that 3 days ahead of time. Yes, a question already?
It's just a question for me. Can you turn off those lights because it's making it seem like the heavens are shining down upon you?
How do you know they're not?
They might be.
Is that better?
That's much better. Thank you.
How do you know it's just not my personality?
It is. You're so radiant.
Outside of me. Thank you so much for all your nice messages as always. Thank you so much. We got some culinary heroes, Mr. Spielberg.
We do. Yep. So Leslie made the sea bass and the eggplant parmesan in a cook-off, which was very cool.
And I want to say, Leslie, they looked fantastic. I know you didn't have the croutons. And then I think that looks like a beautiful range. Is it a Viking range? Because that looked good. It made me go... You know what? I'm having trouble with this rascal. So what else we got?
Elizabeth King, she made the beef goulash with the spatzel, and she thought that it was fabulous. Oh, well, it is a new favorite, so she thanked you for that.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
And then let's see, we've got Deb Marshall. She also made the goulash and spatzel. She liked it a lot, so that's fantastic. Michelle Harvey, she loves spending time with us on Sundays. She likes all the recipes. She's tried a bunch, and she's saving a few for a rainy day, but she says they never disappoint. Leslie says, yes, that was the Viking.
Well done, Leslie.
Let's see. Betty Fisher-Kaminsky said that you are her favorite chef, and I am a beautiful assistant, which is pretty awesome because
really nice.
No one's seen me, so let's... That's even better.
I second her.
And then Olga Holowak said,
Olga, yeah.
Olga, yep, she said that the class is really positive and uplifting. So that is fantastic. We hope to continue some positivity.
But I think it comes from being surrounded in positivity. Olga and Bob are world cruisers, and we met many years ago. Do you remember Bob? I gave him my, what are them shoes called? You know where you put them when you go in
water
the water?
Shoes?
I gave him my water shoes, and Olga and Bob have been together. I think I might be stretching my neck out, but I'm going to go for it. I think it was in 1959 they got married, and you go up to, you'll watch them and they dance every day together, and they're just beautiful souls. I'll never forget when we chatted about their son who they lost. And we cry, we laugh, we've had him. That's what a Crystal Cruise is about. You become a part of the family once you get to know everybody. And it's just marvellous. Anyway, we've got to do some cooking. Thank you so much, Olga. And I'm lucky, I'm positive because I'm surrounded by positivity. That positivity starts here at Happy Days Cottage, with Mrs. Spielberg, and then it leads on to the team that's around me, the culinary team, all of the team, Miami, Mila and Kerry and Carmen and Christina, all of that team that's around me, and then everybody. So that positivity is actually recharges me, and I share it with you. I just can't wait till we're back on the water.
Me too.
We're getting closer. I remember when the pandemic started, I thought to myself, I don't know how long this is going to last, but the one thing I know is together we'll be together in some time. And as long as you keep that thought pattern, that positive ray above your head, and you think together we will be together again, it's going to be so good. And we're getting closer to that. Right, time to get cooking. I'm getting off my soapbox.
Okay.
Onions. You know, when we think about onions, we always use yellow onions. Hey, quick tip for you, because you always like to have tips for you. If you're ever making French onion, caramelized onions or French onion soup, you slice the onion with the grain. You can see the grain goes that way, but actually just regular day sauteing, you slice it this way. If you slice it this way, it'll dissolve easier. If you slice it this way, it'll support itself. Same with the leek as well when you look at it. So we're just going to slice the actual onion. So I'm just taking the onion and I'm just going into slices, and then same with some pepper. You know, the pepper's going to lose some of its water content, so we're just going to take the pepper and we're just going to slice the pepper, just slicing it, and you don't want it too thick. So when we think about it, shakshuka is going to be for, oh, the onions are strong, by Jove.
That's why I moved away.
I'll be crying before you know it. It'll look like I'm watching Beaches. Do you remember that movie,
Oh, that's
Beaches?
a tearjerker.
I love that. When the song come on, the wind beneath my wings. Oh, I love that.
You're such a romantic.
Was there? There's no way. Do you remember when we went to watch The Notebook and I cried more than you?
That's a true story.
Okay, so we're just slicing. Listen, when we're slicing, we go in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, like this. Just practice that motion. So, you know, if you're watching a TV show or something, just stand there for a moment, or you're listening to some music, just practice that motion forwards and backwards, and you get clean cuts. If you go like this, you're not going to get the cuts. Okay, so we're just slicing the pepper, and we're slicing it relatively thin. So why we're slicing it thin? Because this is sort of a breakfast / brunch item we see. You know, we think all the way through the Mediterranean, we see this, and there, you know, you'll see it in Israel, you'll see it in Greece even. You know, you'll see it over in Syria. It's one of those dishes that just spread, and rightly so, because it's just such a good dish. But also this dish allows for anything, any little morsels you've got left. If you had green peppers, use green peppers. If you've got leeks, use leeks. I'm going to show you the basics, and then from here, as I always say, you're the Christopher Columbus of your taste buds. You'll take it to where you want to go, from the spice level, from the morsels, what you're going to add. I've got some olive oil in the pan, and I'm going to just stick this on, Mrs. Spielberg.
I'm coming in.
Come on in. So I've got some olive oil in the pan. I'm going to add the peppers and the onions to the pan, and we're just going to start sauteing those off. And we're looking to get a little bit of colour. I hope one time we'll show you how to make how to caramelise onions. Caramelised onions, when you think about them, it's a technique. So sometime on a show, I'll show you how to properly caramelise onions, and then you can go to your French onion soup. But they're really a good secret weapon to have to add lots of flavour to food. So what we'll do is we'll talk about them some other time. But whenever we're cooking like peppers and onions, what we want to do is try to get a thin layer. So that thin layer now is going to help it saute. Now, they're just heating up at the moment. If I was caramelising onions, I'd add half a cup of water to that and a lid, because my whole goal is to get as much heat to them onions as possible, so they'll start releasing some of their juices. So what I want to do is just let these start cooking. Whilst those are cooking, I feel good for the next few minutes for these. These are going to be fine because they're still cold and they haven't lost a lot of the water content. So the first part's going to be sweating. So let's go back to the counter, Mrs. Spielberg. So we're making a marinated feta cheese, and you know, I love to do like marinated feta cheeses. I think it's something to have in your arsenal, something that you can use. You know, once I show you this, It's something you can use on roasted vegetables, on flatbreads, on just a salad, and it takes you to a different place. We're going to use a few different spices today, you know, and as you know, when we go cruising, it's beautiful when we go to these countries and the locals share their produce with us, and it's really exciting. I think working with Crystal for 13 years and working with the culinary team, there's so much knowledge I've been able to learn, and as you travel the world and you get a real taste of that land and then you bring it back to you at home. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some, I use one of these mocajetes.
Mocajete.
I use one of these things. You could use a mortar and pestle if you want.
Yep.
Oh,
I gotta keep them honest.
There's not a week goes by that I don't get another word wrong. Last week it was the river. This week it's the mocajete.
Mocajete.
Yes, I use one of these things. I wish I had a mortar and pestle instead. You know, I have a spice grinder, but I'm not going to bring it out for a small amount of spice. We've got some coriander seed, so we're just going to add them to it. Buy one of these or a mortar and pestle. I like this. I like the rough texture. I think it helps me grind it. So I'm just going to grind my spices. Grinding your spices is actually better, Mrs. Spielberg, than a spice grinder. You save more of those volatile oils just by doing this. Coriander seed is one of those seeds that has sort of a citrusy flavour to it. Has this beautiful, already now it's releasing its perfume, it's saying to
smells
me,
good.
Doesn't it smell marvellous? And you're really going to get that coriander seed come through this with this recipe. So now I've got the coriander seed. Feel free if you want to use a brush to get the rest out. I'm just going to use my fingers. We've got the coriander seed in there. We're going to take some flat leaf parsley. We always use Italian flat leaf. We don't use the curly parsley. That's more so for butchers' windows and garnishing buffets. So we're just roughly just chopping some of that. And you know, I always say to you at home, please do keep a sharp knife. If you look, my knife's about 20. This knife's about $20 or $30. This is the Victorinox knife, 8-inch chef's knife. I think it's a good size. We have the 10-inch knife as well, but I think it's a little bit too big for the average day cooking. And it's a great knife. I use it all the time. I don't work for the brand. And then we use a knife sharpener. Yes?
How do you clean the spices from your mortar and pestle?
How do you, what, sorry?
How do you clean the spices from your mortar and pestle?
For the mortar and pestle, take some rice. So a little bit of rice will absorb it. So just ground some rice, let the rice absorb for it as in there, and that will absorb some of that flavour. So now we've got the parsley in there. Now we're going to use something which you've not seen before, and this is one of my. It's an ingredient that I think once you're introduced to this, Aleppo pepper. So you just take a look at that, Mrs. Steele. I'm just going to stir this as we're talking. So Aleppo pepper is from. You listen. I might be pronouncing it wrong.
Is it Aleppo?
It's Aleppo. It's. I'm so sorry. I get so English, and you know the English try to anglicize everything. It's Aleppo. It's from Syria. So apologies for that pronunciation. Aleppo pepper is about half as spicy as the normal red chili flake that we have, but it has this beautiful fruitiness, and it has a little bit of citrus notes, and I really think that it adds a lot, maybe an undercurrent of cumin as well, and I think it really does, just like salt adds flavour to food, I think this really does enhance food. And once you try this, I think you'll agree with me that it does add some, and I find I use it a lot in my food. So I'm going to take some of the Aleppo pepper, and I'm going to sprinkle that on. And feel free, you know, at home, whenever you watch a show, and I do want to say this to you, is that, you know, you might try the sauce and you may say, well, John said 1 teaspoon, it doesn't seem spicy enough. Everybody's palate's different. The person next to you could have 200% less flavour taste buds than you, so they don't feel the characteristics like you do. So whatever you feel, go there. Just be careful with your salts and be careful with your spice. Your spice, you know, if you do it too spicy, it's pretty hard to take away from it. But it's important that whenever you see something, you season the way you want to. If you want it spicier, feel free to add it. If you want a little bit more salt, feel free to add that. So now we've got the pepper and the coriander and we're adding some olive oil. And this doesn't have to be a really expensive, fruity olive oil. It's just an extra virgin olive oil, which is an everyday decent one. California is doing some good olive oils now. So we've got some feta cheese, and we can see it's not too wet. I've dried it off, and I'm going to crumble it myself. And the reason why I like to crumble it myself is that a lot of the time when you have feta cheese and you buy the crumbles are just a little bit too small. You know, they're quite dusty, and you pay more for crumbles than just doing it yourself. This way, I'm in control of the feta cheese. So now we're adding it. Feta cheese, as we know, is going to be quite a salty cheese. So when we see the likes of salty cheeses in a recipe, we want to be careful with the amount of salt we add to the dish. So now we've got the cheese, and we're just going to let this marinate in there. And this just marinates for a few hours. This will last about 3 days, just for everybody at home. After about 3 days, we're going to see some discoloring of the parsley. So we want to use that up. Okay, good. Everybody feel good?
Feeling good.
Feeling groovy. I've got to have a slurp of wine as you're working. It's important, Mrs. Spielberg, to you. Happy days.
Happy days.
Is Doug on? Sausages?
Doug's on. Sausages.
Okay, so the onions are cooking, Mrs. Spielberg.
Am I coming back?
The onions and peppers are cooking. Just for a moment. At this stage now, we're starting to see some colour. You're going to get more colour by spreading them out in the frying pan. So if you have them in a mass, you're going through a steaming process. By pressing them down, you're always going to get more colour on there. Hey, always have a little thing. See the way I've got a thing for my spoon here? Just put one. It's the little things, like a plate or something like that, is what stops the place from getting filthy.
Yes.
So, season, as we always do, we season with kosher salt. We usually season from about 12 inches. So a small amount of seasoning, that small amount, because we know, let's think about it, we've got salty cheese coming down the way. The diner, the person who's coming to your home, or your wife, or your family, can add their own salt to it. So always remember, let them adjust it. I've always said, you know, as a chef, a lot of these big chefs' egos, where if a diner asks for salt and pepper, or if someone says they want tomato ketchup, happy days, you've worked hard for your money, you can finish it the way you want. I'm just going to share it the way I feel it should be. So, you know, it's important not to add too much salt. So now you can see there's starting to get some colour on it. You know, it's getting some nice colour on there. So while that's cooking, Mrs. Spielberg, let's just talk about some tomatoes.
Let's.
So she's cheeky, isn't she? She is cheeky. Tomatoes. We talked a long time ago about this, but I just want to, every now and again we get a new, our family extends. With tomatoes, we always want to buy them whole, never buy them chopped. Chopped tomatoes, quite possibly, well, actually, they have a citric acid which stops the edges from browning in there. We just don't want that. Whole tomatoes is the best bargain for your money. Now, if I was making a tomato sauce, because I know I sort of go off the recipe and come back, but I want to give you as many tips as possible. If you're making tomato sauce, marinara sauce, scissors in the can, cut the tomatoes rather than squashing them with your hands. Sometimes squashing with your hands, it goes all over your top.
Is this dish always vegetarian?
No. We're going to make a variation in a moment, which is not. So no is the answer, and I'll show you why in a moment. So always buy plum tomatoes in the can. Plum tomatoes, and the reason why we use plum tomatoes, it's the best bargain for you. I can move that towards you, Mrs. Spielberg. You both fingers. We've got the tomatoes.
I'm doing the splits.
Listen, you must be tall. It says breadcrumbs, and I never thought about this before I actually finished the recipe off. You could use a couple of pieces of bread. If you've got no breadcrumbs, a couple of pieces of bread or a couple of pieces of pita bread, just add a couple of pieces to it. So I know you're going to see a tremendous amount of shakshuka recipes out there. There's Yeah, I'm sure if you Google it or YouTube it, you're going to see easier shakshuka, you're going to see the most authentic shakshuka. What happens is, a lot of the times the fat will split and it gives you that edge. The bread stops that and it gives you a little bit more of a thicker sauce, which I kind of like. So that's why we have the bread, is to stop that splitting. So we're just going to stick this on the bread. Happy days. We'll turn this off. Bring the lid out the way. And now we've got it blended. Now, the one thing I will say, what can happen is, different brands of tomatoes will have different water content, which may change a little bit for you wherever you're cooking throughout the world. So let's go over to our stove here. You know, when we think about spices, we can go anywhere you want with this. You could use, say for instance, if you loved Indian food, you could use some garam masala in there. You know, is it authentic? Not particularly, but can you do it? Absolutely you can. Have fun. I love it when people have fun and share how they've got to have fun with it in the kitchen. We're using today some cumin and we're using some smoked paprika. We talked a little bit about smoked paprika last week. Smoked paprika is the paprika plant, paprika chili, and it's smoked over oak for a couple of days till about 7% water content. So now we're going to add the spices. Whenever we cook with spices, Mrs. Spielberg, we want to bloom the spices, and it's an interesting word, blooming, isn't it? And
it
it's
is.
basically Mrs. Spielberg, let's. It is. Already I can smell it. We want to.
So blooming just means cooking it out.
Well, basically, yeah, in the oil, there's certain spices that love to be cooked in the oil a little bit. So just by cooking these in the oil, already you can smell this, can't you?
Yep.
So usually when I finish these cooking shows, I smell like someone who's worked at the spice market in Turkey and Istanbul for a few days. So take a look in here now, Mrs. Spielberg. Now we've got that. So what we're going to do now is add the tomatoes. So the tomatoes and the breadcrumbs are going to go in. Now this is a thicker sauce. If we look at this, it's a thicker sauce. If yours is too thick, add a little bit of, I'm just going to show you, add a little bit of chicken stock, add a little bit of water. So things may change for you. Always feel free if it's too thick. Come back up here, Mrs. Spielberg.
I'm so entranced.
You aren't, I think you're watching the show today. Oh, by Jove. If it's too thick, add some water or chicken stock. If it's too thin, reduce it down. And I'll show you the consistency. I've got a splat screen. For so long, I've not enjoyed splat screens. I've always found them to fall apart. I do like this one. It's been a good splat screen. I have to be honest.
It's a Le Creuset, if anyone's asking.
And it folds away, and I do like it. And I don't work for the company.
We know.
You don't know. I could be a Pinocchio. I don't work for the company, but I do really like it. If you look, all them splatters would be on the countertop. Okay? So what we're going to do now is give this a stir. Now here's the sauce, here's the consistency we're looking for. If you're not using it, if you're using induction like we are today, be careful on the bottom that it doesn't stick. Obviously if it's a non-stick pan, it's not going to stick to it. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to take some eggs.
People are trying.
The what?
People are trying to ask, well, do you work for that company? The answer is no, Anna Marie, no.
No, I don't. That's not the way I work. I don't. What? Stop it.
Oh my God, it's ridiculous.
What's ridiculous? No, I know, but there's so many people who peddle stuff. I'm just going to take an egg. Okay, so look, I always crack my eggs into a... I'm going to show you what we do here, Mrs. Spielberg. I just want to show you the consistency. So look at the consistency here. See that consistency? It's a thicker sauce, and I kind of like it like that. If yours is thinner, no worries. Happy days.
There's a couple questions. One, where do the onions and peppers go?
The onions and peppers are in the pan. So I've added tomato sauce. Remember we had the onions and peppers and tomato sauce?
Oh, you put them in the blender?
No, the onions and peppers. Remember we started to cook them in the frying pan?
Yeah.
Then we added the tomato mixture.
Oh,
and then
so
we
they're
cook
just in
it.
there.
We cook it for 10 minutes.
Got it.
And then this is it. You can see all the onions and peppers in there. Can you see them?
Oh, yeah.
So this is one, otherwise, because I've only got a 30-minute show. So otherwise we'll be here for 4 hours.
Doug's now also drinking every time you say you don't work for a brand.
Oh, stop it, Doug. Jimmy the Cricket. I love him. Listen, look at that. I'm going to drag a little, see the way I'm just dragging a little space?
Yep.
And I'm going to put the egg in there, okay? And then what I'm going to do is drag another space. I'm going to just open up a little space. I'm going to let the egg yolk sit in there. And all I'm doing is creating these little spaces for it and let the egg sit in that place, see? Yep. And you can see I'm just creating these spaces for it. Have I got a recipe for you in a moment? I can't wait for you to see this recipe in a moment. I'm going to digress while these cook. See the eggs sitting in there? Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to make one in the centre.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah, just one in the centre. Is that insincere, Mrs. Spielberg? Jimmy the Cricket.
It looks very pretty.
No, and I'm just going to take some of that sauce and I'm just going to go around the egg white.
How come?
I want the egg white to cook first before the yolk.
Oh.
So I'm putting some of the hot sauce on it and I'm keeping it in its place. Yeah, it's the only thing I can keep in its place. So I'm putting that there. Once again, my spoon's there. Now we're going to put a lid. So 5 minutes. Don't let me go over 5 minutes. While we're doing that...
You better set a timer then.
No, I won't. I'll be fine. If the overcook happens, please. Okay, over here. Let's just go for a different one. So over here, I've got some onions and peppers. I just want to show you a different one, if that's okay, guys.
Where did you add the tomato paste?
Sausages. The tomato paste was in this one, so I would be up to that stage. It was already in that mixture. There's where the tomato paste goes in, right there. And before we cook it for the 10 minutes. So the tomato paste goes in there. Reason why we do tomato paste, just for the record, is that it concentrates, it gives it a better body. We know tomato paste is really going to concentrate. I do like this one, this brand. I've never worked with them, I've never met anyone from the company.
Doug, there you go.
Doug's going to be sausages. Doug's going to be
sozzled.
He's going to be sozzled. He's going to be singing. He loves this show. I can't wait to meet Doug.
Oh, Doug said my better have to test dippy eggs. I agree with that.
Well,
but there's
Doug,
going to be an alternative.
Doug, we've got the alternative for you. I'm putting that on low. Number 4, and then over here, number 7. Okay, this is for your partner, Doug. Here we go. So I'm sauteing off some onions, yeah? And then here we go. Someone asked before, does it have to be vegetarian? We got some supersata, which we think about the Italian sausage supersata. Classic sausage, some celery salt in there. I'm going to add some supersata to it. And then we've got some chorizo. We think about the Spanish sausage. Beautiful chorizo. We're going to add some chorizo to it. Now, at home, you might have some leftover shrimp. You may have some leftover smoked haddock. You might have whatever, pepperoni. This is the time when you use up stuff in a sauce like this. It's just marvellous.
I mean, there's so many sausages you can put in there.
Italian sausage, Wisconsin sausage. There is so many. So now we're just going to add, and we know. Now be careful, because these are cured meats. We know cured meats have a lot of salt, so we want to be careful. So now we've got the sausages in this one, yeah? I'm going to bump the heat up on this little rascal, okay? Mm-hmm. And then what we're going to do here, Mrs. Spielberg, is I'm going to take some tomato sauce. So this could be your favourite recipe for tomato sauce, you know, or you could buy some tomato sauce. I would recommend Rayo's. I'm going to say it again. I know I say it many times, but I just want to, in case anyone ever...
John doesn't work for Rayo's.
Yeah. So now we've got tomato sauce in there. Stay there, Mrs. Spielberg. I'm just going to grab something. I want to show them this one, and I'm going to take some. So now we've got, you know, when we think about Turkey, they have that beautiful cheese, what melts so beautiful, begins with K. I'm going to take some mozzarella cheese, and I'm just going to give that a stir in there, yeah? And then what I'm going to do now, Mrs. Spielberg, is, and Doug said his partner doesn't like, doesn't particularly care for eggs. So
eggs like that.
Eggs like that. So what we're going to do for Doug's partner, let's just break these up, give these a little whisking, okay? Mm-hmm. So now we haven't got the soft egg, the soft centre. We've just got the eggs which are broken, yeah? Mm-hmm. I'm going to get this up to a little bit of a boil, bring this back up, and I'm going to stir in these eggs. So the eggs are going to come in there, Mrs. Spielberg. And then what I'm going to do is just stir the egg. I don't want to break them up. I want them to hold to themselves. Yeah? And I'm just going to stir them around and stir them around. And this is a nice alternative because you do have people that don't like it.
I'm one of them.
You are one of them. I didn't want to say it, but you are one of those. But no,
Well,
I
I
mean,
have to
that's
have
what...
this for dinner.
That's... Okay, the eggs are just going to set, and then what we're going to do is put some mozzarella cheese on the top, because you like things super cheesy.
I do.
So this is a great way. This is a good way. Some mozzarella cheese. Alexa, stop. Okay, and I'm going to pop the lid on it.
Okay.
The lid, that's just going to come. Alexa, stop. So we're going to let that cook. We'll take a quick peek over here, see how we're going. We're doing good. We can see the eggs are cooking nicely. Bring them up a little bit more. That's cooking. That's cooking.
Yeah.
With that one, Mrs. Spielberg, what I would do with that is maybe take a little bit of that Aleppo pepper, just to give it that nice colour. We know that it's going to melt down the centre. So a bit of that Aleppo pepper.
Is that hot?
No. It's half the... It's about 50% less spicy than what regular chili pepper is. I'm going to go a little bit over today. I am sorry, but I promise it'll be worth it. Fantastic. Okay, I want to show you this. We just done this. This is a new recipe this week. It happened, I think it was about Wednesday or Thursday, and I just created something that was fabulous. In the United States, we have these Stacy's chips.
Stacy's pita chips.
Stacy's pita chips. And Stacy's pita chips are basically naked chips. They're just baked. They're not fried. So what I wanted to do was to create a za'atar chip. So when you think about going for the Mediterranean, you think about Middle Eastern cuisine, you think about za'atar, it's fresh thyme, oregano, sesame seeds, and sumac. This is sumac. Sumac is, we think about the sumac flour, there's two different types. There's the white and the red. The white is poisonous, the red, obviously we can eat. It has this lemon, it has almost like a citrus flavour to it, and once you taste it, you fall in love with it. I made these this week, and Mrs. Spielberg is a great taste tester. She tried...
You sure you're giving me the one that's not poisonous?
Oh, gosh. We can't buy the one that's poisonous. She's so terrible, isn't she? Okay, look. A little bit of garlic. Half a garlic clove. 2 tablespoons of butter. So I'm going to... 2 tablespoons of butter. So just so you know what we're going to do here. About half a garlic clove. 2 tablespoons of butter. 2 teaspoons of sumac. 2 tablespoons of za'atar, 2 teaspoons of sumac. This chip, now tell them what you thought of this chip.
This is honestly, I think, the best chip I've ever had.
Best
Sorry,
chip.
Stacy's.
And you can, if you want, just bake some pita chips. Always cover your butter. It has a tendency to explode in the microwave. Whenever you put them in the microwave, it has a tendency to... have you ever done that, Mrs.
Yes.
Spielberg?
Barbara wants to know what you serve the shakshuka over.
The shakshuka you serve, it's a breakfast item, so we serve it with bread. We will. Okay, so look, I'm just going to take the 2 of these and I'm going to stir them together. So I'm just going to grab a spoon and I'm going to serve them together. I stir these together. So now we've got this blend of spices, za'atar and turmeric. Now, trust me with this one. This chip is addictive. Like, it's just got it. There are certain things you have in life and you think you've got it. And I thought garlic bread, it always gets me, it will stop me, just put a stop to me. But now we've got this garlic butter.
Oh, that smells so good.
Yeah, garlic butter, 20 seconds in the microwave, 2 tablespoons of butter, and then we're just going to dribble this on while the eggs are cooking. Just dribble it on, toss it around as we dribble it on, giving it a tossing. Remember, 2 tablespoons of butter, half a garlic clove. We're not going to put too much garlic in there because we don't want to overdo it, you know, where it's not very pleasant. And then we're going to take that turmeric and that za'atar. We're going to toss these around. I'm going to use my hands, you know. You could use tongs at home. And this chip is absolutely exquisite. It's like the best chip I've had for a long time.
Could you pour that same mixture on popcorn?
Yes. That was... Who come up with that?
I missed it.
That was genius. Well
The
done.
eggs are at 5 minutes, so you might want to check on them. Thank you, Kathy.
Well done, Kathy. Thank you, my dear. Okay, here we go. So let's go back to the eggs. At 5 minute stage, you should start checking them. Happy days. So we can see that this one over here has been the furthest away from the heat. So some of that residual tomato sauce, it will cook. By the time that comes to the table, that's happy days. You can see it's still jiggly. Look at the eggs, they're still jiggly. I feel good. Okay, so by the time that comes to the table, I'll just put a little bit of that tomato sauce on there for that one, because I know he needs a little bit of it, and that will do it. At this stage now, Mrs. Spielberg, let's go and grab, I'm just going to check the other one as well.
Is it equal parts za'atar and sumac?
Yes, 2 teaspoons of each. Two teaspoons of each one. And that's the way, that's the equal amount with the butter. At this stage now, remember we marinated that feta cheese?
Yeah.
Here's that feta cheese. After a few hours, it absorbs the flavour. So now what we do is we start adding that feta cheese to this. Now, if you haven't got feta cheese, don't worry about it. Happy days, use what cheese you've got. This is going to add that saltiness to it. So when we think, we can see that the eggs are cooked beautifully, look. You know, they're not overcooked. At the 5-minute mark, we start checking them to make sure they're okay. The key is just to make sure they're not overcooked. You know, and we can cook these in the oven. The oven's going to take a little bit longer because, you know, it's a round heat and it's not got the aggressive heat from underneath.
How long, if you want to make, like, use burrata instead of eggs, how long would you cook it for?
Burrata cheese on the top. So, you know, burrata cheese got quite a lot of water content and cream content. So the burrata cheese should be done within, I imagine burrata cheese is in the pan like that, will be done within 5 minutes. We're just looking for it to melt. Okay, so pepper, we're going to add some pepper to it. I'm not going to add, normally I'd finish with some mold and salt, as we always know. I always finish with mold and salt, but I'm not going to finish this with mold and salt. I'm going to finish this with, because we've got feta cheese, I'm not going to finish it with that. I'm going to bring this one across, Mrs. Spielberg.
If it's only 2 people in the house, can you make that into a smaller?
Yes, in just half the recipe, and feel free to use your favourite marinara sauce. You know, listen, everybody knows I love Rayos and I don't work for them, but feel free just to use something instead of that. So now we've got these together. When it comes to serving this, you can serve it with if you wanted to serve it with some pita chips, you could toast these on an open flame. I'm already over time today. I was going to show you how to do them. About 20 seconds, if you buy store-bought ones, 20 to 30 seconds in the microwave, and then over the open flame. Like Leslie's got an open flame there, a Viking. I have a little portable gas stove, what I use for using the naked flame, and that really adds a nice char to the bread. Don't never serve pita bread just like this. It's just not, you'll only eat so many meals in your life, so make everyone memorable. So at this stage now, Mrs. Spielberg, let's take a look at these. So I'm going to take one of these eggs, I'm going to come out with the egg, and I'm going to take some of that rich, beautiful tomato sauce. You can see the tomato sauce there, yeah? And you can see, and I'm going to take some of those za'atar chips. Now, when we think about when we travel with the cruise line, when we go to Turkey, when we go to the Mediterranean, we think about other things we like to have with them as well. We're going to take some of those Persian cucumbers, maybe, for instance. We're going to take some onions, which have been marinated, turmeric onions, classic, with it. You don't have to. You could just have it with crusty bread, you know, with it. Let's take a peek into here. Just look at that one. Doug, here's the one what your missus would like, or your partner would like. You can see the eggs are set, the cheese is there, the chorizo is wonderful. Some of that feta cheese is in there. So you can go where you want to go. As we look into this, as we dig deep as such, just take a look at this, Mrs. Spielberg. I'm going to take that yolk and I'm going to cut it. Just look how soft that yolk is. That tomato sauce, which has got the smokiness from the paprika, and then you've got that saltiness from the feta cheese, and then we've got that za'atar chip or a piece of crunchy bread. And here we go, happy days. Let's try this.
You look happy. Everyone's mouth's watering, so that's good.
It's just so good. It's truly brilliant. We learned today that you can, how to cook this shakshuka, but we learned that you can add any morsels you want, any sausage, any crispy bacon, make it vegetarian, go where you want to go. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember at the 5-minute mark, keep your eye on the eggs if you want the soft centre for it. If one's just undercooking, just add a little bit of the hot tomato sauce on the top, that will do it. Thank you for all your positive messages. Honestly, it means a lot to us. I can't wait until we're back on the ocean. I said last week, and I'll say it again, you know, when I speak to my family in England and they always say to me, tell me something positive about the coronavirus, I said I got to extend my Crystal family. You know, most of the time we only get to meet a certain amount of passengers when we go on board, but now we've been able to meet you, and I just can't wait to see you on board. It's going to be such a good time. It's going to be so much fun. Mrs. Spielberg?
What are we cooking next week?
Aha! I forgot to say it last week, Jimmy the Cricket. Next week, we're going to go towards Turkey. Well, we're on this sort of, you know, as we think about this time of the year, we're thinking about we're going towards that way. So we're going towards Turkey. We're going to be doing stuffed peppers, 2 variations of stuffed peppers. I want to show you how to master them. We're going to do one which is vegetarian, we're showing you some wild mushrooms, and one showing you with some lamb, or you could use pork or beef. So I want to show you how to master them, and then a lovely lime yogurt sauce with them. So that's what we're making next week. So it's going to be a really good show next week. I'm excited because I love stuffed peppers at this time of the year. Thanks very much. Good. What did I say?
No, I was going to say thank you, but then you were going to say thank you. So we could say it at the same time.
I'll say it then you can. Thanks very much. I'm sorry I went over today. I know you say, John, you should do 45 minutes, so I've done 40. I hope you enjoyed it today, and I hope you make lots of meals. Remember, positivity starts with every word you say and every breath you take. Feel it, you know, just give out as much positivity as you can. I'm blessed and you're blessed, and I don't know what else to say. I feel good today. I feel really good that just being here and being here with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Have a wonderful Sunday. See you next week. Bye.